Hello, friends, and welcome to the Prepwell Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Black. And if you have an 8th, 9th, or 10th grader with big aspirations, like the Ivy League, or military service academies like West Point, ROTC, or athletic scholarships, boom, you've come to the right place. My specialty, my superpower, if you will, is preparing families for these competitive programs. I'll teach you what your child should do, when they should do it, and how you can help. So stick around and prepare to out-prepare. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Prepwell Podcast. Guess what we're talking about today? You guessed it, coronavirus. Who is not talking about coronavirus? But I'm not here to scare you or give you tips on how to avoid the corona, or how long to wash your hands, or how to get toilet paper, or whether you should use a mask or not, or anything like that. There's plenty of that information coming at us from every angle. What I do want to do today is to help you and your teen make the best of the situation, especially if your child is a junior, and especially if your spring break travel plans have just been canceled, as mine have been, and you're not sure what to do. I had a full 8-day itinerary of several college campus visits to the East Coast with my 2 sons who are juniors, and we just canceled it. We're staying home. Now, if this situation describes you, I will make the bold statement that the coronavirus may be the best thing that's ever happened to your child. I will explain. But before that, as an aside, while this podcast is geared a bit more toward juniors and how to salvage a spring break, it's part of a bigger theme, a Prepwell theme, which is do not procrastinate. When there is the opportunity to do something now, do it now. What exactly are you waiting for anyway? I know many students who've had opportunities to take the SAT or the ACT 2 or 3 times already, but they procrastinated. They put it off. They forgot. They didn't register. I urged them to get at least one test under their belt before the spring, and they blew it off. They just assumed that they'd take it in the spring. Guess what? Those spring SAT test dates may be canceled. We don't know yet, but it looks like it's moving in that direction. That may really screw up their test-taking timeline. That is not good. So as a cautionary tale, for all of you 8th, 9th, and 10th graders out there, the message is clear. When it comes to college admissions and schoolwork and homework and essay writing and chores and other important events in your life, don't put off until some random future date what you can do today. Okay, if you also have to cancel your spring break plans or anticipate having to cancel your plans, I want to help you and your child come up with a backup plan, especially if they're juniors, because the stakes are very high for them. And the truth is, if your plan was to spend a week or 8 or 9 or 10 days visiting colleges and cruising around campuses and eating in the student cafes and taking tours and gazing up at the pretty buildings, which is kind of what we wanted to do, I think my proposed backup plan will serve your child better and my children better when it comes to how they will fare in the college admissions process. In fact, I know it will. If, instead of going on your college visits, your teen does even half of what I'm proposing, they will significantly increase their chances of getting into more schools, far more so than they would by walking around looking at buildings on college campuses. Now, your child probably won't think this is such a great deal, because given the choice between going on a 7-day college tour boondoggle versus doing what I'm about to propose, most students would take the former. Surprise, surprise. They'd opt for the trip and the hotels and the fun. But for the junior in high school who realizes that they only have one shot at this, and they want to put their best foot forward and leave no stone unturned, and they realize that the competition that they are facing is rough, a few of them will listen and execute this plan. And those are the students that will have no regrets at the end of this process. And it's a small chosen few. I truly believe that for a motivated junior who wants to be the best they can be, this coronavirus fiasco may be a blessing in disguise. If you have a junior who is highly motivated in school or sports or extracurriculars or all three, your child at this point is most likely running on empty. That's what junior year is all about. It's a test. It's a test of endurance, of motivation, of maturity, and perseverance. And right now, they're probably holding on for dear life. So having 7 to 10 days off during spring break, where your child isn't in and out of rental cars and hotels and college campuses, may be the lifeline that they need to regroup before they make their last stand. Because, by the way, once spring break is upon us, a few weeks from now, for most of us, there will only be about 10 weeks left in the school year. And if you don't count the finals period, now we're looking at 8 weeks left. And in case you haven't noticed, AP exams will be about 6 weeks after spring break. Hello! If you plan to be away for spring break, and now you're not going, you have been given the gift of time, one of the most precious commodities in a junior's life in high school. What can your child do over spring break after canceling their plans, whatever those plans may have been? Here we go. I'm going to start off with the easy stuff, the low-hanging fruit, the stuff that will be music to your junior's ears, just to show that I'm not a ruthless slave driver all the time, just sometimes. All right, most of the time. The first 3 things I want your teen to do over spring break is to rest, recover, and relax. The 3 R's: rest, recover, relax. Let's talk through these. The first R is rest. Teenagers need sleep desperately. One of their main jobs over spring break is to sleep. They'll like this idea. Now, technically, they can't catch up on sleep because that's not a thing. Once it's lost, it's lost. But they can make sure that they give their bodies ample time to sleep while they don't have the day-to-day obligations that they do when school is in session. The second R, recover. Recover means eat well, hydrate, and get fresh air. From my observations, teens don't typically eat all that well. It's often because their schedules are so packed that they just grab whatever fits in their pocket or whatever they can put in their backpack. Well, spring break should be different. Your teen can make it a point to eat more healthful meals, drink more water, get outside. They should think of themselves, even if it's just for this 1-2 week period, as athletes preparing for their last few weeks of the season, the playoffs, the finals. Getting stronger and healthier and fortifying their immunity system will help them perform in what will be the most intense academic few months in their lives. Remember, most juniors will, number 1, have to finish strong to keep their grades up, their GPA, the most important thing. Number 2, they're taking several high-stakes standardized tests, which are stressful and anxiety-producing. Number 3, they'll begin their college applications, and all of this in a very tight window of time. They need to prepare physically and mentally to make this run. And the last of the 3 R's is relax. Watch a movie. Yes, of course. I want your teen to get some relaxation time. That's part of the deal here. Not 8 straight days of nonstop relaxation, but some. Go to the movies, go to the mall, surf, swim, ski, hike, whatever it takes to help them relax. And if we want to stick with the coronavirus theme, may I suggest that they rent the movie Contagion on Netflix. It's trending right now because it's a fictional account of what's happening right now, taken to the extreme. That will definitely get their attention. Now, even if your child takes me up on all of these tips, they rest, they sleep in, they go to a movie, they play some video games, they presumably should still have 6, 8, 10 hours a day of free time over spring break. How can they spend this free time? Let me count the ways. They can and should get to work or get back to work. I know this may not be the most popular thing to suggest to your teen over spring break, who's probably barely holding on if they're doing it right. I'm used to it. I feel like I'm always suggesting the not so fun things, the spinach eating. But someone has to say it. And I'm unafraid of recommending that students put in the work. They need to put in the work. The work that they've probably been putting off for a few months as they've been caught up with the rest of their lives. I get it. I have 2 juniors. I know it's hard for them to focus on medium and long-term goals while they're in the heat of the academic calendar. That's why this spring break can be different. If they put their mind to it, they can use these days to not only catch up, but to far exceed what they would have been able to do if they were on their college tour boondoggle. Here's a list of to-dos for your junior. Number 1, study for the SAT or the ACT. If your child has waited this long to start studying for the SAT or ACT because they haven't found the time to do it, or they've been lazy, or they forgot, or they're a procrastinator, whatever the reason, guess what? Now is the time for them to recover. Now is their opportunity to make up for lost time. They finally have a window of time where they can focus without distraction for hours and hours and hours in a row, which is what it takes. This is a gift. This is what they need to appreciably improve on their SAT or ACT scores. Your child can buckle down and study, prepare, take practice tests, work on weaknesses, get familiar with the timing of the sections, and build confidence. Number 2, study for SAT subject tests. Yes, the SAT subject tests are right around the corner as well, if they don't get canceled. During your child's downtime, they can once and for all decide which SAT subject tests to take, register for them, and begin to familiarize themselves with the test format and the length and the timing and the expectations, and begin to study. And there are often sections on these SAT subject tests that are not covered by their high school teacher and the high school curriculum during the school year. Guess when your child is going to study for those sections? You guessed it, spring break. Another gift. Number 3, study for AP exams. While we're in test prep mode, if your child has any AP exams coming up, they're coming up quickly. In fact, many will be taking their AP tests in about 6 weeks because AP exams are given in mid-May. They can use their spring break to consolidate the curriculum into flashcards, create study guides, review their notes, take practice tests, come up with a list of questions for their teachers, and learn how to study. Number 4, get ahead on schoolwork. Remember, the number 1 factor that most colleges consider before anything else is your child's GPA and the rigor of their classes, especially during junior year. They want to see how they perform when the heat gets turned up. Spring break can be the perfect time for them to review concepts that they've been a little bit shaky on, to get ahead on upcoming work, whether it's papers or projects or reading, to clean up their notebooks that are busting at the seams, and to get ahead of the game for when they go back to school. This is a big confidence boost as they enter their last push of junior year. Number 5, work. If your child has time and the opportunity to work a few hours a week over spring break, that could be a great use of time. If they can swing it, I'm all for it. Whether that's as a lifeguard or a babysitter or a dog walker or a lawnmower, it gives them some extra spending money. It builds confidence and life skills. It can be highlighted on their college application. Now, I wouldn't push it too hard. I wouldn't work so much that it takes away all the time for the more academic stuff. They may be tempted to do that because it's easier. Now is not the time to do that. They'll have the rest of their lives to get that work experience in, so don't let the work crowd out some of the more important to-dos over this critical time period. Number 6, shadow. Shadowing is similar to working. If your child has the opportunity to shadow someone at their place of work, even if it's just for a day or half a day, it could be a great use of time, especially if it's in an industry or a field that they plan to major in college. But again, don't let shadowing impede their progress on the other academic tasks. Number 7, finish planning for their summer. Has your child figured out what they're doing for the summer yet? This is an easy thing to blow off because it's a few months out there. Have them take out a calendar, sit down with them, and start mapping out what they plan to do and when. Work, study, travel, write essays, research colleges, internships. Then, number 8, after you've mapped out your whole summer plans, have them come up with a backup plan for those plans, just in case this coronavirus problem becomes a protracted one. One of my private prep-wellers had a once-in-a-lifetime trip to China planned, where she was going to work in a Chinese hospital for a month. Well, guess what? That trip's been canceled. What will she do instead? What's her plan B? What's the backup plan? These are things that need to be worked on. Number 9. Number 9 applies if your child is an athlete who intends to play their sport in college at any level, Division I, Division II, Division III. It's definitely time for them to nail down their summer schedule. What invitationals are they going to? Showcases, camps. Now is the time to communicate with coaches, send emails, and figure out the universe of schools that they should be spending their time on. Number 10, your child can begin to look at the Common App essay prompts. The prompts are the essay questions that they'll be asked to respond to on their college application. If your child is a prep-weller, they'll get several lessons on how to approach the essays: brainstorming, storyboarding, outlining, drafting, reviewing, drafting and redrafting. But there's no reason not to get a jump on this now. Number 11, target list of colleges. Has your child come up with a preliminary target list of colleges yet? I'm sure you've been kicking around some ideas as a family, but has anyone yet written them down and started to organize the information in a logical way to make sure it's balanced, to see what the financial profiles look like? Now would be the time to do that. Start by researching colleges to find ones that fit your needs. I personally like using bigfuture.org. Create a spreadsheet or some kind of system to track these schools. Divide them up by reach schools and match schools and safety schools to see how balanced your list is. Basically, create the organizing method that your family will use to start assessing the colleges that your child will actually apply to. A good target number is probably 8 or 9. Number 12, a LinkedIn profile. If your child is a prep-weller, they've gotten several videos in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade teaching them how to create a compelling LinkedIn profile. But have they done it? And if they have done it, how good does it look? Is it ready for prime time? Is it ready to go? If not, now is the time for them to execute that task. Now is the time to catch up on all those things that they may have put off till later. Number 13, the brag sheet. The brag sheet is similar to the LinkedIn profile. It tells a story about who your child is. They specifically hand this brag sheet to the teachers who will write their letters of recommendation. It's like a resume. It documents their credentials and their grades, their aspirations and hopes and dreams. It makes the job of writing a letter of recommendation much easier for a teacher. And these brag sheets should be turned into those teachers probably within about 2 months. So use this downtime to finish them. And lastly, number 14, scholarships. If your child is really looking for things to do, they can begin looking for scholarships or contests that they might be able to win. Many scholarship contests require a writing sample on the application. It's one way for the scholarship committees to limit the number of applications because most students shy away from doing any extra work. They don't want to write an essay. The essay requirement is what dissuades most students from applying, but it's also exactly what your child should look for when looking for scholarship opportunities. Find the opportunities with limited competition. If you have a motivated teen who can write and wants to make some money, maybe they should spend a few hours submitting applications for scholarships or contests. Well, Have I given your child enough to keep them busy over spring break? I hope so. If they did even 50% of what I've suggested here, it would completely change the game for them. I guarantee it. They would be much further ahead in school. They'd improve their standardized test scores. They'd get some work experience in, begin their college essay, get more organized, get their LinkedIn profile ready to go. The sky is the limit. The question will be, do they care? Do they believe me? Do they think this plan will accelerate their success? If they do, and they're ready to put in the work, I've just given them the keys. And listen, I'm not delusional. Most teenagers will scoff at the idea of spending their spring break doing any of these things. Luckily, I tend to attract students and parents who actually care about getting into competitive colleges and who are willing to put in the work to get there. That's the definition of a prep weller. Someone who prepares well and well in advance. Now's the time to earn the name of prep weller. And mind you, for anybody out there listening who has a child that is not yet enrolled in Prep Academy, you should know that the things I've listed above, the standardized test prep, the working, the shadowing, the brag sheets, the LinkedIn profile, the college essays, these are all built into my online academy. Every week starting in 9th grade, prep wellers get a video from me teaching them how to do these very things. Now, I know personally several prep wellers who have already done all of these tasks because they've been keeping up with the program for the last 3 years, and they've done all the work in a timely fashion. These are superstars. These are people in the Prepwell Hall of Fame. There are many others who've done bits and pieces of these things. Okay, that's a good start. Now they have to regroup. They need a little fine-tuning, and they'll be back on track. And then, unfortunately, there are some students who are way far behind, and it will take them a lot longer to get completely back up to speed. If you have not yet enrolled your 9th or 10th grader in Prepwell Academy, what are you waiting for? Have they already done all these things? Do they know exactly what to do and when to do them? Who's guiding them? Who's motivating them? And now that you know what's coming down the pike in junior year, do you want them to be prepared? If so, enroll them today. So you won't have to deal with all this last-minute business in the middle of junior year. You'll be glad you did. I know this coronavirus deal is a big downer, and it's disrupting a lot of our plans. Today, I try to provide a silver lining for those of you who had to cancel spring break plans. Whether you were visiting colleges or vacationing or visiting friends or family, please try to make the best out of this situation. If your child does what I've suggested, they will be in much better shape physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually than they would be if they spent that week traveling to colleges and living out of hotel rooms. Help them make the right choice. That's all I've got for you today, folks. Thank you for tuning in. If you know a parent with an 8th grader, 9th grader, or 10th grader in high school, or an 11th grader for that matter, please share this episode with them. You can do that by finding that small box with a tiny arrow pointing up. That's the share button. Click that button and text your friends the link to this episode. Maybe even put a little personal note in there from you, recommending that they take a listen. If you have questions, comments, or an idea for an upcoming episode, please reach out to me by email, DM me on Instagram, Prepwell_Academy. Check out my blog, Facebook, or LinkedIn profile. I would love to hear from you. Until next week, goodbye, good luck, and never stop preparing. This podcast is brought to you by Prepwell Academy. Prepwell Academy is my one-of-a-kind online mentoring program that delivers to your 9th or 10th grader a short, highly relevant video from me every week, every Sunday in fact, where I give them a heads up about what they should be thinking about to stay ahead of the game. To get these valuable lessons into your child's hands, please head over to prepwellacademy.com and enroll your child today.